me do a quick introduction just because you're here. Oh, I'm here today with my good friend Zuri Stevens. It's been so long since we've talked. Too long.
Yeah, too long, way too long.
But I love seeing you. It always makes me so happy. I saw you the other day with Frederick Pogue, and that made me happy. I didn't get a chance to listen, but I'm just like, yes, these connections and keep talking. And the
That was
more we talk,
great.
oh, there's Stephanie Wilson too. Hi, Stephanie. I'm talking to Stephanie tomorrow.
Stephanie, it was a
But
great conversation with Frederick. I really loved our conversation. Of course, it did trigger a few people,
I,
but you know what?
well,
You
good.
know, it did. But no, we have to have these conversations. The time for like small talk is over. The time for trying to mend and to basically hug people and manage fragility is actually over. We are in a battle for
God.
the planet right now. It's not about. Yes, I'll come to your show, Stephanie.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
So it's not about, it's not about us sitting around saying, "Oh my gosh, I feel so attacked by that." I've heard so much, when you think of some of the stuff that, even in the Epstein files, stuff that Donald Trump said about Black girls and Black women. If I was a fragile person, oh my gosh, I would just never show my face. You hear these things, you can't feel this can't feel personal at this point. It's
Ah,
just way too important what's going on for us to start arguing among each other. We should be allies and we should be fighting this thing together. We cannot spend our time fighting each other just be
yeah.
a little hurt about what someone's written.
Oh, and a lot of that ties in to this. People think that they're helping. Like
Oh.
there was something the other day that came out about in the Epstein files about like them eating babies. I mean, that was just, and people are like, "Hey now," and they think they're being helpful when they're like, "Hey now, let's not be scandalous." Like, you know what? At this point,
Yeah.
let's make them prove they didn't do that. And so
Yeah.
the people that are just like, calming down now, and it's like these jerks who keep telling me that I can't say that the Republicans stole the election in 2024.
Mhm.
And this is what I wrote about this morning. Every single day, people are like, they're going to steal the midterms. They're going to steal the midterms. And
Mhm.
I've been saying, yeah, they stole 2024. Oh, you can't say that. And it's like, you're not being helpful. It's like, let's do the investigation. It's like, give yourself the freedom to say. And it's
Exactly.
like, yeah, and the humanitarian crises that are going on with these detainment centers. Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, you didn't cut me off. I just wanted to reinforce your point. If you don't say things out loud, you know, that you don't make them,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And, so I wrote this little post just now about me, with my former employer and, they let me go because they wanted me to stop writing about racism. And for me, that wasn't a possibility. It wasn't
Yeah.
because we have to talk about these things. We cannot pretend they don't exist. We can't pretend that something's up. The election results 2024, there's something up and there's something suspicious. And we have to talk about things. We have to investigate things. We have to be courageous and brave to say things out loud.
Yes. And what you'll find is that people thank you. I mean, we're all afraid, and even I sometimes, and people aren't going to believe this, but there's times that I am reluctant to say things,
Me
and
too.
I force myself to say it, and just people because I've been lately. I'm finding it's helpful for it to be positive.
Yeah.
So when I'm just like, like people say, instead of happy holidays, we say things like that. I see people, and I'm just like, hey, justice for good. I'll say that, and referring to the well, just general justice for we want justice for good. Good never gets a win, right? But just
Exactly.
say things like that. And I'm getting when I was talking about this yesterday, you saw my talk with Marlon and Arturo. They're so
Right.
wonderful. But
Mhm.
it's just like that. And I love talking to you because we need a black woman in charge is exactly the message of our age. Because
Yeah.
so many white people, their faces just gloss over, and it's just because I know deep down they're decent people, they have kids, but when I say, hey, justice for good, and they just like, they give me this smile, and
Yeah.
then you're in that moment. That's a critical moment where you have to make them say, look, what I said was reasonable. You have to come to my side.
Yeah. The thing is, it's all about capitulation and a lot of
Yeah.
capitulating.
Yes.
And what's happening, people are very frustrated, but they're like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to rock the boat.
Ah,
Then they go home and they end up being frustrated. They end up having, mental health issues. They end up feeling unwell because they are not voicing their
yes.
so it is unhealthy. And that's one of the reasons, where I sort of thought, the choice that my employer was asking me to make was between me sort of talking about racism and how it manifests itself in life, and me sort of just keeping it inside. And
Uh,
Black women that I have met in my network that have autoimmune conditions or, just basically non-communicable diseases because of
yeah.
stress and having to hold in everything, all the microaggressions and all the things that happen to you. It's just not sustainable. You cannot spend your
Yes.
whole life holding things in. And last year, there were a couple of very unfortunate incidents where Black women unalived themselves. And there was a discussion around that. And the reason this is happening is because these women have had to just take so much and
Yeah.
their suffering is just so deep and intense, and that's, like, the only way they find to get out.
Yeah.
So, we have to be talking, we have to say these things. On the Epstein files, I've just been very vocal. I thank you, Walter, for being so vocal about this because you might not know this, but your courage is contagious. You
Good. I hope so.
It's contagious. Just going on to Substack and seeing you be unafraid to call things as they are, it gives me a lot of courage to be the same way, and I think it does that to other people. So don't underestimate the impact that you're having because you are making a change, and I always think about you, and I think about your daughters, and I know you do a lot of things also for them, and, it's so inspiring to me to feel that I'm not alone. Hey, like, I can always call you up and we can always chat.
Oh, yes.
You'll always be in my corner and that you are fighting for the right things. We need more people like you, a lot more people like you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I mean, I really try to platform in particular black women because exactly what you've said, and I think that's the demographic that has endured so much more. And I was talking to Margaret Williams yesterday, and that was just a beautiful conversation. But I mean,
Course.
I kind of run into this problem sometimes because I'm just another white face in the inbox. So anytime that you have somebody that needs more of a platform, I'm at your service, and just the 3 of us can bring them on, and just we have to because it's like that division, that illusion of disagreement is there, and it's
Yep.
just and I don't expect anybody to just trust me. It's like, this has to be ongoing. It's like, I expect the same skepticism that people have for Gavin Newsom, who has gone, and we've talked about him before. He's gone and revealed himself as not on our side with some of the things he's done lately.
Cannot compare you in no way.
Well,
No
I just
way. There's this thing called authenticity, and it really, no matter what you say, you can feel it across the screen, okay? You are an authentic person. The issue with Governor Newsom is that he isn't, and he proves it over and over and over again. He
Mhm.
podcast, just listen to one of those podcasts, and you'll see that he just changes his mind, like he changes his
Oh,
jacket.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
that's not an authentic person. I cannot trust somebody who changes their mind. That flip-flops. That's just not it's not authentic.
Well, even yesterday, Arturo, and he started, and I mean, I talk a lot about we need to make these generalized comments about white people, and it's like I did not take any offense because I get frustrated by how we can't activate white people either. So even
Mhm.
Arturo is like, "No offense," and I'm just like, "It's fine. I'm not gonna get mad at anybody." And everybody has to recognize too, because there's that group that comes in with their "not all," which is a white supremacy argument. That's a
It is.
thought term, and it's a white. It's intending to deflect away from the important topic you're trying to talk about. And it's
Exactly.
just, yeah, we're so surrounded by those things. Oh, somebody just said they loved your
Thank
Substack
you.
with Frederick. Frederick
Thank
is hilarious. I get a kick
I
out of
like
him.
he's amazing. He really is amazing. I do agree with you, it's deflecting from the argument, and that's why I said at the start, we need to stop doing this right now, because the thing is, there's so much at stake right now. There's
Oh,
so lose if we do not focus on the key issues instead of, "Hey, I'm gonna, write Rebecca." Like, I got so many messages, saying to me, "Not all white women," and it was ridiculous. And King Vet was great because he did a whole Substack live, just taking my comment. He did a
good.
great.
We'll
But
have to
honestly,
bring him on too. I've had a live with him too, and he's wonderful.
yeah. But if you feel targeted, if you feel that I am writing or talking about you, then you need to really examine why you feel that way. Because there's so many things out there when they say all black women and black women like this and black women like that. I don't take any of those things personally because I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's so important. That's really an important topic because I like to try to be a representative of that. It's like there's plenty of things white people need to do better. As a white person, it's really important for me to say that. And I was reflecting too the other day how when I was talking with Arturo and Marlon, I get all riled up and I start screaming and I'm just like, well, Arturo and Marlon, they'd probably be dismissed and you'd be dismissed. And I'm just like, but I think that's part of white privilege where I can get through to other white people by screaming and getting all mad.
Mhm.
Whereas if you did that, they would just instantly dismiss you. So what are your thoughts on that? I've been kind of debating it if I should try to do this calm approach, but I feel there's value in getting all animated. So what do you think?
I mean, I talked to Frederick about this yesterday. I am not spending my time trying to convert those people. I am
Yeah.
not. I'm just not going to do that because, as either they don't listen, or some of them are just irredeemable, or some of them just have this poison. So I'm not going to spend my time doing that. And actually, Walter, if I may, I don't even think that you should spend your time doing that anymore.
Mhm.
Because you are just frustrating yourself with these people.
Ah, maybe that's true.
We
I'll contemplate that.
we have a larger fight to fight. We have much
But
larger fight, and that is about there's a lot more of us than there are of them. If
that's true.
I sometimes talk to my husband about this. I said we have 24 hours in a day. So say you sleep. Well, I sleep probably 5 or 6 hours, and then you eat and maybe work in Substack probably for 10 hours like I do and you do. The thing is, there's so little time left, and I'd rather spend
Yeah.
that with my family
Yeah.
and, and giving love to people rather than fighting with a white supremacist about why they're a white supremacist and all of these weird ideas that they have. So I decided that is not my fight. You know,
Yeah.
really show love to my kids,
Yeah.
empower them to speak their voice, to be courageous people, and to then spend the rest of the time like just enjoying my life. But
Well, yeah.
I'm not to spend hours and hours because I did that for years, Walter. I did that when I was in medium. It used to make me sick to my stomach, spending days and days feeling upset over comments that people would write to me. And no, I'm not doing that because that's another tactic. They want to waste your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't waste too much time on comments. I mean, I can tell pretty quickly in a couple words, if it's a real person or not. But a lot of my anger is directed at people who consider themselves to be liberals. And just like so many of these arguments, like one of the main arguments that makes me really angry is that we don't have Democrats out there saying it's completely legal to cross the US border as long as you apply for asylum within a year. Like we have to undermine that whole and I think I don't know, like get really upset about this because we just saw last week that 5-year-old kid Liam Ramos and he was being tortured in this detention center. And it's just like how can people go through their day? You're out buying groceries today? You're looking and it's like some kid is being tortured in a detention center funded by your tax dollars. And we have to awaken people to that. I feel extreme urgency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You're absolutely right, Walter. And the whole strategy here is to normalize all of this. It's
Yeah.
to look at that poor kid and just think it's okay.
Yeah.
That's the whole strategy. And even the whole thing with the Epstein files is to throw those files out there, have people read those files and sort of just get used to living with this type of thing, normalizing cruelty and violence and inhumanity. That
Eh,
is the
yeah.
And the fact that we are outraged and you write about, you express yourself over and over, and you have to keep doing that because we're not accepting this. We're not going to settle and accept cruelty and violence and inhumanity. We are not going to do that. We are human beings and we have to continue doing that. And sometimes people tell me, my voice is so small, I really can't say much. I
Ooh.
can't. You can do it. All of us can be on Substack and all of us can be saying the same things. You have a social media account and you can be saying these things and express outrage. There's no excuse to sit at home and say a thing. No excuse.
Yeah. And whether it's sending emails or texts or calling people on the phone, anybody close to you, there's so many things. But I think it's really you're hitting the heart of the matter is we've all been groomed and indoctrinated to just stay silent. Like it's considered inappropriate to say that the president of the United States openly brags about sexually assaulting women. Like that should be something we teach in school. I mean, kids should be able to hear that. It's like this is a president who openly bragged about sexually assaulting women. And
Uh-huh.
but when you say that, and I think the fight is that resistance you feel
Yeah.
from external people as if you are the one who has transgressed by
Yeah.
speaking that fact of the cruelty of the Republican Party and all the lies they tell. And I guess I constantly are wrestling with this. How do we combat that? How do we get other people to just break through that wall? Because why are we obedient to this
Yeah.
sense that we shouldn't say these things when they're true and they're horrible and kids are being tortured as a consequence of our silence?
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just, I think there's also a part which is giving yourself the permission to say stuff. Because I think we've been socialized to just keep quiet. And I mean, we're a generation of children. We're no longer children, where our parents were probably baby boomers and where we were just taught, as me as a black girl, I was taught to just not make a stir, not
Mhm.
make a big deal. Don't attract attention to yourself. Just put your head down. And when I gave myself the permission to start talking about racism about 6 years ago, I remember tons of people reached out and said, "Are you crazy? Why are you doing this? You're going to be in huge amounts of trouble." And I said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this because, one day, I want to tell the people that I
Yeah.
love that I fought for them. I want to say this. I want to be proud." But you're right. I think, we have this thing, we auto censor ourselves. I have this feeling if we were in jail and somebody gave us a key right now, a lot of people would just basically not even want that key. They just
Yeah.
jail cell.
Yeah. And somebody mentioned about the rage rants, but it's I think there's something we need to know about the psychology of white people. And they're also indoctrinated to just bow down to the hysteria of these patriarchal authority figures. And so I try to invoke that a little bit. And I mean it's like because I'm a 50-year-old white guy, right? And it's just sort of like my whole life too has always been, oh, now's not the time to talk about that. And I mean, we're talking about the physical toll. I had asthma. I mean, as a child, my family, and it's like asthma can be this psychological when you're being tormented, you get that. And then I couldn't eat when I was going to school. I used to, there's all these stories where I was so thin in my first days of school. I had to wear suspenders because the pants would just fall right off me. So like, there's these physical traumas that you go through when you're in these systems of just injustice. And,
Uh-huh.
and then but I mean, it was this rural conservative talking to Margaret Williams. We had these parallel experiences, and you're conditioned to just obey these authority figures. And as a curious kid, as an intelligent person, I'm just like, well, that seems to contradict. And you're brutally attacked for it. It's just like this. And we just have to examine that whole lifetime of conditioning, and it's just different. Like eh, your activism is going to look different than my activism. I can reach different people than you can reach, but I do
Uh-huh.
need your feedback, And if I'm really out of line, you're like, Walter, I would trust you. It's like, if that's more harm than good. But
Yeah.
there's just some things we should be enraged about. I mean, little kids getting tortured is something. Wow. I'm not supposed to sit here and talk about that in just a calm voice like it's something normal. It's like, people,
Not.
stop the kids from getting tortured.
It's not. And by the way, Walter, you talk about your bouts of asthma when you were a child. So I worked in the space of global health and I did a ton of projects actually in Detroit about 10 years ago. And it was just incredible the number of kids in Detroit that are afflicted
Yeah.
with asthma. And I started doing some research on because I thought that the epidemiology was very, very high. And I wondered, just compared to the rest of the country, were there so many Black kids with asthma? And started doing a lot of research and found out exactly what you just said, that asthma actually it's a manifestation actually of a lot of trauma. And these kids were going through so much trauma, so much racism, medical racism, and what have you. And this was one of the reasons that explained this high level of asthma, which you still find in Detroit, by the way. So just I wanted to, link that
Yeah.
to as a kid. And I'm just really sorry that you went through that because I think that creates, that must be really difficult to be bullied and all of that because of your condition. So just wanted to express a lot of sympathy for that. I really feel for you. Um, in terms of what you were saying, yes, you can reach different people, and I can reach different people, and yeah, and we should be doing that. We should be doing that. At the same time, I think that we should also, and we talked about this. I think it was just before Christmas. we cannot lose ourselves in a lot of
Mm,
this work as well. And I was very happy when you said over Christmas, hey, turning off the phone at this point, spending time with my family,
mm.
and I really liked reading that, and because I also emulated what you did. Was okay, going to go off Substack for a day or two. So yeah, we need to fight, but we also need to make sure that we keep energy and time for ourselves and for the people that we love.
Yeah, I've been reading Resistance is Rest. I keep forgetting if it's Resistance is Rest, I think is the title. And that is how we're in this society that just pushes us, it blames us for every hardship we endure. Like,
Yeah,
you and it never mentions that we're just not getting compensated enough for our work. We're always told our work is insufficient to the point where we work ourselves to death.
yeah.
And yes, you just have to take your and we feel guilty when we rest. So that
Mhm.
disrupts our rest because
Yeah,
when we take a minute to ourselves. But yeah, I've been at 5 o'clock, I've been turning off the cell phone. And it's just you have to, and it's amazing because that difference is night and day. Because I
yeah,
thought I was present with my family, even if I'm scrolling through things, and you're just not. You're not, and you're ruining that opportunity to connect with them. So just yeah, at 5 o'clock, I turn it off unless I get a call from a congressional candidate or something.
mhm,
That's the one exception I'll make. But you had, and I felt so much better since doing that because yeah, I mean, we have to. This is a marathon. This isn't a sprint, and this is going to be till the end of our lives. So
yeah.
take time. Yeah,
It's never gonna stop. And I also think there's one thing that I've also learned a little bit are all these. I mean, you told me about this, which is you're like, watch out, Zoe. Like a lot of the trolls are actually bots. They're not
yeah,
real people. So don't get all just don't get worked up about this, and just and that really helped me in the sense that I'm just like I see comments. I know some people are real and they're really concerned, the very decent people, I would say, and I'll say this because I'm sure that maybe some of them are listening to us. The very decent people send me a private message and say, "Hey, you wrote this article. I don't quite agree with it," and I really have a lot of respect for those people. I do. I have a lot of respect for a person who reflects and how does this look if I put this message right on her public page versus
yeah.
a private conversation. That already tells me that that person is already there's already some type of self-awareness, in that behavior and a respect for me as a person.
That's
But
good. Yeah.
you taught me about all these trolls and bots and just to not disconnect, but to distance myself from some of these people, which has been really, really helpful, I must admit, over the last year because it's been people just
Oh,
triggered because of the title of my newsletter. They get triggered because I say I want a black woman in charge. People are so
I
triggered. It's just incredible. Like, what are we talking about right now? We're looking at images of men abusing young kids, and you are basically, getting screaming at me because I say we need a black woman in charge. Ridiculous.
yeah, and you have to be even because I've had some people do legitimately reach out, but I've even had people, the manipulative ones, are
Hmm,
dishonest when they're trying to reach out to you for what's appears to be a constructive criticism, but it's really just another form of attack.
hmm,
Uh, your weirdo friend, that's her profile name here on Substack. They
yeah,
wrote this really great article where they were talking about they want to activate your fear response, and so many of the once you recognize, if an argument is phrased a certain way, your brain interprets it differently, So, and that's to some extent what I'm trying to activate when I get riled up. I mean, this isn't just entirely because I know it gets through to white people. I mean, yeah, a 50-year-old man screaming and acting, I'm the authority now. It's like
yeah,
that. We need that. We need rational, but we're at the point now where we're like kind of in this battle. But yeah, I see it in these comments, these things that they start with the accusation. They want
mhm,
you on the defensive. Like the Republicans constantly put us in check. So we're just like react, 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 react. And we do. We have to go on the offensive at these things. And once you start seeing all these different forms of manipulative bot comments, you
mhm,
start recognizing. And then, but the problem is they're so normalized and they're everywhere that even people that are otherwise good people will repeat phrases that they've heard through rote conditioning over and over, thinking it's reasonable. And I'm guilty of this too, where you just say something that sounds kind of good. Like the other day when I was talking to Emily Berge, I'm like, well, we're all descended from immigrants. And she rightfully corrected me. Well, not all. And it's like, oh, absolutely, absolutely, that's true.
that
There
was
are, there are, and I was so happy that she made that correction. And I was so happy we have a candidate for Congress who took
yeah,
that moment. But it's just like I get caught up too in these things that are indoctrinated into us that
yeah,
and there's just no battle that's too small for these white supremacists. They will
yeah.
tooth and claw. And if they can't get a win, then they settle for a delay. And it's just we have to recognize what we're up against. But yeah, the format of the arguments that come at you are
Mhm.
often white supremacy in disguise, and we have to overcome that.
Yeah, but, I think we talked about this once, Walter, because what I see, with everything that's going on from a geopolitical level, I think there's been a lot of theories, and I'm not calling them conspiracy theories intentionally because I think that there is some truth to this. That Putin is doesn't you know maybe playing some games and trying to get Americans to fight against and hate each other. And the issue is because the US is such fertile territory for this type of thing because of the because of the race,
Yes.
because of all of this. So it just makes it easier. So any external actors can easily, really rile Americans up against each other using very fertile, you know, I would say soil of
Yeah.
white. And that is one thing that I keep on thinking of is that they will get us to fight against ourselves and they will push and push and push for civil war. And this is one thing I think is a little bit, why we need to be trying to listen to each other. And this is some of the stuff that I think I'm not a big fan of Republicans, but Thomas Massey and some of the other Republicans who are just really pushing for us to have a dialogue, for people to talk to each other. Because the thing is, this is one of the biggest nations on earth, and we cannot be manipulated by all these external actors for whatever reasons they might have. So I think that's one of the things that I see when people are just fighting and fighting and fighting with the racism and the this. I'm like, did you think for a second that somebody who stands to gain from you fighting each other?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's the social media aspect of it where they were able to leverage the social media control. And we've had a Congress made up
Mhm,
of people that, they don't really understand
mhm.
technology because they're not of that generation.
Yeah,
And they've just allowed this to just go on. I mean, all the hate it's really proliferated with, and it's just like a combination of social media and the cell phones and all those things that we haven't responded.
huh,
But yeah, I mean, and I keep saying too, there's just like this consistency among weak men, like weak and pathetic men, like the type of weak and pathetic men that have to abuse a child to feel
yeah,
powerful. And that's where I start getting mad about that. Yeah, we do need to have a dialogue, but I need a dialogue with the kind of liberals that come up to me and accuse me of being too aggressive. I'm just like, look, we
yeah,
this other stuff is out there. They've crossed the line. They've crossed the line and they no longer get a seat at the table. We don't listen to their perspective anymore once they're raping kids. That has to be stopped. And it's
huh,
like, yeah, this delay, this normalized thought of, oh, well, like I wrote an article recently about how the first time I got beat up on the school bus, you go tell
yeah,
your parents, and my dad's like, well, you must have done something. Somebody wouldn't just come up and hit you if you hadn't done anything. It's like,
mhm,
why did you assume that? Some people do just come up and hit you when you've never done anything. And so
yeah.
we're kind of in that mindset where our whole world thinks, well, nobody would have done that. They must have a reasonable. Don't assume that people have a reasonable perspective. There's a big contingent of powerful people that are just they're there to abuse children, and we're seeing the evidence. We know that's true. So yeah, we have to recalibrate how we think.
But I think we also have to, these oligarchs or these
Oh,
billionaires or trillionaires now. I think we can
yeah,
actually word have sold us out. They have sold us out to the, highest bidder. This is what has happened. So all of our data, every single thing has been sold. has
yeah,
been and these people, I think if there's one thing, because a lot of African American black men and Latino men voted for Trump. And one of the reasons they did this is because they admire his wealth and they admire how he got
yeah,
rich. But there's nothing to admire when we start like putting one and one together. What is there to admire about rich men, rich white men who rape children?
yeah,
At this point in time, we shouldn't be admiring any of these people anymore. At this point in time, in the midterms, we need to show, no, I don't look up to Elon Musk. Of course, I'll use X and to get my information from time to time. And I don't believe most of what's on there, but I'm never going to admire him. I would say 10 years ago, I'd think, oh, wow, that's so impressive. Elon Musk is so intelligent, but now I don't because I know what these people have been up to. There is nothing to admire at all.
Yeah, and I wish more of our Democratic politicians would mention how much he gets in free government money. He gets billions in
Yeah.
subsidies and his wealth. I mean, and that's that whole mechanism that's in place. And yes, idolizing the rich. I did an interview with Paul Vigman in his book, The Almightier, and how, yeah, we have things like the prosperity gospel. So this goes way back, where evil people who exploit others to become rich, then they have to cover up their crimes. And it seems like all of history, I mean, these white supremacists that want to cover up the crimes of the true crimes of American history. But it's
Huh.
sort of like, yeah, I keep talking about the current president. He's a person who's so inept that he can't build anything. He has no skills. So all he does is he takes his name and he
Yep.
stamps his name on the achievements of others and claims them as his own. And then they burn all the books that detail who actually built those things. And it's
Exactly.
just sort of like we can't be beholden to that because we're being led by the completely inept. All they knew how to do is destroy. And, even if the book burners burn all the books, creative minds will reinvent science. We will still find those truths. So they don't have as much power as they think. It's complete futility. But yes, they inflict a lot of damage along the way.
The thing is, the interesting thing about social media is that it's a tool that has helped spread so much hate and division, and it's a tool that's been used by external actors to destabilize entire democracies. I believe it does that. But at the same time, it's a tool that allows me to talk to you today,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
organize and get together and build together. So we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity, and they can burn all the books for crying out loud. But we still have these networks. My biggest nightmare is, what happens if they just shut it all down? But the reality is, we are here, and we can organize using the same tools that they're trying to use to destabilize and enslave us. We can use those same tools to actually organize and be stronger. And I think that's what we need to be doing. That's why all of this talk about us fighting against each other about tiny little, I mean, dumb stuff, really. It's just a
yeah,
waste of our time. We should be building, and we should be just coming together and being stronger. And you do it with reaching out to different people, and having these conversations like we're having today. That's what we need to be doing. More and more of these, and more of people standing up and saying, this isn't right, this isn't moral. It's not normal that a little boy, you know, is held in a facility. It is disgusting and vile and inhumane. We should be ashamed. Ashamed
yeah,
of that. You know, we should just be ashamed. We should not tolerate even looking at that and thinking it's okay. Somebody else is gonna take care of him. Someone else is gonna We need to be active, and we need
yeah,
actually the the actors and actors in our own lives. We need to just stop sitting back at home watching Instagram reels and Facebook reels and nonsense.
yeah, yeah.
I'm outraged. So I'm just outraged by that because this this thing is just, like, on my mind. I couldn't sleep for days.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, it's just the indifference. And it's the indifference, and it's the white population has this indifference. And I mean, the white base is what got the guy in the everybody wants to shift blame. Well, a bunch of Latinos and the black. It's like it's the white base. That's why this has happened. They're the ones with the disproportionate power. But yeah, it's just we have to just start talking. I mean, like the Epstein files are horrific.
Walter,
But then
I just wanted to add one thing. Sorry for interrupting you there. I think, white supremacy, and I think Dr. Stacey Patton has written about this, and a number of people have written about this. White supremacy doesn't only affect white people, it affects Black and brown people too. It is a disease that anybody can catch. And basically, the definition of white supremacy is when you basically think that everything white is superior to anything Black or brown. And there are a lot of Black people that I know that are like that. So if you look at Alex Preddy and you look at the people that unalived him, they were not white people. These are people that have caught the disease of white supremacy and basically follow its marching orders. So I think that there were a lot of white people that are not white supremacists at all in any way, shape, or form. And there are a lot of Black people that look like me that are white supremacists. So we need to watch out because white supremacy hides. It
yeah.
really hides amongst So it's not always
Yeah.
the color white that basically equates to being a white supremacist.
And this is fascinating. One of the things I've thought about too is just the extent to which white supremacy has been combined with the cultural American identity. And I think that's our point of recalibration. And what I was talking about before, with asthma and I couldn't eat, there's an internal part of me, because I was being indoctrinated and groomed to become a white supremacist. And I think in the United States, it's very hard. You meet these gatekeepers, and until you prove you have absorbed white supremacy ideology, you are not allowed to pass through the gates. I think
Mm,
that's what happens, and so that's what happens. Like we see guys like Clarence Thomas who
mm,
apparently achieve high positions, but it's because he's doing. And like you said before, I talked to Bob Dana, and he was talking about when his family came over from Italy, and they
mm,
weren't considered white until you start manifesting the American cultural identity of white supremacy. And
exactly.
that ties into what you're thinking. Um, and it's like it's one of those things that it hurt me because when I was growing up, it's like you only learn about decency through the negative space where decency should have been, and it's been removed, right?
Yeah.
That's America. And it's like, it doesn't work for me because I'm a compassionate person. And it took me all the years until I finally left the country and went to South America. And that's a moment, deconstruct my whole brain, learn a foreign language. So now I'm thinking in a whole new language. And you start to separate out what part of you is you and
Yeah.
what part of you is that white supremacy conditioning. And that's what we have to get through because so many Americans, they just live in this kind of delusion. Because one of the things white supremacy teaches you, and what I've discovered, I avoid these obstacles, like it's like, okay, you can either go through the gatekeepers and demonstrate demonstrate your adherence to white supremacy, or you can go around. And I think that impulse to go around is the problem. We need the impulse to obliterate white supremacy. We have to change. So that's why we're conflict adverse. We've
Mhm.
been indoctrinated that way to either be white supremacists or to go around those obstacles,
Yeah.
leaving them in place to stop other kids and people that come behind us. And I think that's the recalibration of our era where we have to be like, no, we have to knock that down. And I
Mm,
keep talking about this like with the publishing industry, and you know it as well as I do from, Medium and other platforms.
mhm.
Other people get to rise up and get bigger, and I kind of stay at this one level, even though I've just written something that got shared 250,000 times.
Yeah.
You look at the publishing industry won't touch any of my work, even though I have all these email subscribers. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. And it's
Yeah.
because the stuff we're advocating for is not the white supremacy narrative. And
Yeah.
so they shut us down. And that's what we have
It's
to
just
overcome. We have to have a system where we publish
mhm.
rational voices and compassionate voices and not just avoid it.
But even here in Substack, even here in
Yeah.
Sub you've been here for very long, and I have. And I'm very grateful for my paid subscribers. They really I mean, every single one of them is so precious and valuable to me. But I find myself at this level where I stagnate.
Hmm.
So it's not enough for me to put food on the table. And so I can't fully live from Substack. So, I mean, you just mentioned I haven't spoken to you in so long because I've been trying to get gigs all over the place just to feed my family. So I sometimes do not have time to talk, during the time that, you might have availability. And that's the reason why sometimes I'm sort of off Substack and I come back, because I'm actually just trying to make a living. And I think Substack, and I don't have any facts, but I just know that there's so many people like yourself and myself that write about these topics. And we're just kept sort of at a certain level, where we have enough subscribers
Yeah.
but we don't have enough to survive from it. So it's
Yeah.
a sort of funny form of censorship,
Yeah.
which keeps us at this level just tethered in a way, like sort of just like there. But we don't have the amount of followers to say, okay, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to do all this research, and I'm just really going to really just lean in to Substack. We can't afford to do that, and so that's my sort of analysis of what's going on.
Yeah. And that's something that everybody has to be so aware of. I mean, people like us need help. There's a reason, that the mainstream media doesn't interview rational thinkers. When I was talking about Bob Dana, they don't even interview experts. And you can come onto Substack, you find people with PhDs, you find really accomplished people, you find all these wonderful people, and they just start talking and they're just like, well, actually, this narrative is false. And you start realizing what a mechanism is in place to maintain all these false narratives to the extent when I'm just talking about something I'm actually an expert at, random people will assume I'm wrong because
Yeah.
they've heard like 90% of the media is exactly like you said. It's proliferating these false things. We don't
Yeah.
have to accept that. But yeah, and then it's like every platform I'm on, I come onto the platform, I have initial success, and then
Mm.
the platform's like, uh-oh, this
Yep.
guy is saying this, and it's like, so then they don't. And the opinionated ogre talked about that. Oh, there's Will. Great to see you,
Well,
Will.
I
The
love you.
opinionated ogre talked about that too, where it just kind of levels off. But the
Yeah.
solution is all these wonderful people here. And those of you who want to hear more rational things, more educated content, more compassion,
Yeah.
you have to find subscribers for us is really what it comes to. Even, I mean, paid subscriptions is wonderful, but if you can get somebody else to come out from outside, and we're close, we're getting close to that point. If we can topple that whole narrative, if we're gaining momentum. More and more people are coming on here. This argument that we're making is becoming more mainstream. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to change the heart of all of America, and I've been talking about this a lot with Will. The primaries aren't going to save us. The midterm isn't going to save us. We have to change the heart and mind of everybody in our community, talking to every people. We have to normalize rational thought. We have to bring back respect for science and stop science denial. And this
Yeah.
is why people like Adam Kinzinger make me so upset, because you got these celebrities that come onto Substack to gobble up all the and Arturo calls it all the liberal money. It's like, oh, let's go give our money to this former Republican who couldn't get elected, and
Mhm.
then not support a progressive voice like Zuri or me. And
Uh-huh.
it's just people know that that's out there. I mean, you have to be very deliberate. We saw with Jimmy Kimmel. You take away money from the billionaires and you support progressives, and we transform the world. But there's all this pressure. Number one, the first pressure is embrace fascism. The second pressure is go back to the normalized status quo that didn't help. And then a distant third is people like us who are saying, look, we
Yep.
deserve to have a living wage. We deserve health care. We deserve to have dignity for our children. That's
Yeah.
way off on the fringes. And until all the people here are deliberately making the choice to support us and bring more people to us so that we can get bigger. And every time I interview a candidate, they get more people, then we'll change our society. I'll let you talk. I've been rattling on there.
No, 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 you're absolutely right. Like, you were absolutely right. You really hit the nail on the head. Absolutely right. I think I just wanted to add a tiny bit more. I think, American society has this admiration for,
Yes.
and this is actually one of the reasons that Trump is where he is right now. It's this admiration for celebrities, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You
It's white
know,
supremacy.
when people are on Substack and they see all these celebrities on Substack, they're like, "I'm gonna give them my money." But these celebrities don't need your money because they get endorsements and they have so much cash just coming in, you know? So this is the
Yeah.
thing, is that
Mhm.
there's this big and I saw it once. I've seen it over the last year. Celebrity comes on board Substack, they have no tick, and then literally like 2 weeks later, they have the orange full tick, which
Yeah.
means subscribers. So I know that Substack is also supporting this. I know that Substack is also paying some of these people to come to the platform, but they get a lot of paying subscribers because people are attracted to celebrities.
Yeah. And
While
people, go ahead.
literally the world, like, who are you? Like, literally, we have no idea who you are. You're just there and you basically want a white woman in charge. Nah, we don't know. We'll give you enough subscribers so that you can just keep on saying this for the next 50 years. But it's not going to be enough to feed your family in any way. So you do need to have that
Yeah.
what we call persistent anxiety and stress about, how do I actually make a living?
Mhm. And we have to remember that money doesn't mean the same thing to somebody like Adam Kinzinger or all these celebrities. They all come from they're financed by who knows what. And I've gone through and looked at his followers, and
Yeah.
it's people with no names, and it's just sort of like, this is suspicious. And
Mhm.
it's just like, there are classes in the United States. They are the ones who are printing the money, and they get paid for printing the money. And money
Mhm.
is just they just laugh about it. It's only
Yeah.
guys like people like us that are like, okay, we actually have to work. We actually have bills to pay. We'll be held accountable. We'll get thrown in jail if we do something wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a reason somebody said they try to talk to people and they post and ghost. Kinzinger's not going to respond to any of your comments. I will. I'll listen to what people have to say because I'm a real person. And
Mhm.
we've let it become normalized that our representatives or powerful people, they get to be on this pedestal dictating down to us. It shouldn't be like that. We should be talking back. But yes, I mean, just understand they don't need your money. They're only on this place to vacuum it up so that no resistance can form. And
Yeah.
and it's like they present themselves as our allies. but then
Yep.
they sabotage us at key moments. And
Ex-
that is what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. The centrists are the biggest obstacle, not the
ex-
extremists. He said that's in the letter from Birmingham jail. I'm sure you know it for the benefit of the crowd I'd mentioned.
exactly. That is exactly what they do on these platforms is really to what you just said, to basically it's deflection. It's basically to get us to not organize. That is exactly what's happening. And this whole thing about Substack, because I used to say to Marla, like when are they going to pull the switch? Because a lot of voices on here. I'm like, somebody must be saying at one point, I'm just going to pull the switch and all of this dissent is going to stop. But now I say they're not going to pull the switch because they have us where they want us.
Yeah, yeah,
They have us where they want us. So they give the illusion that there's free speech and that everybody can voice their opinion. But those people voicing their opinion are left to basically with very little income.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're kept in poverty, or semi-poverty, while this illusion is sort of still projected, you know, that free
yeah,
is actually happening and democracy is still here. And I
yep.
honestly, either of those things are actually really here.
You're right. And I mean, I've seen it in other platforms, and you just have to be prepared to move and start over again because yeah, but it's insidious. It's not just it's yeah, like you said, it's not the ban. Instead, they try to cultivate imposter syndrome, which again, when I was in Peru, people didn't have imposter syndrome. That was something I noticed. It's like, why I have this crippling sense of anxiety, like I'm not good enough. And then I was in South, and then people are showing off their art and they're dancing and they're doing all these things. And it's like, why in the United States of America we're crushed? They crush our creativity. And it's just like these systems. And it's again, you don't realize it, and it's the same like what I was talking about before. When you're doom scrolling, you think you're having productive time with your family, but you're still scrolling on your phone. You're not there. And it's just like once you actually set that down, or it's like the difference between because I'm sober now for 3 years. And I thought, it's like it makes such a big difference in your just awareness and your ability to absorb things. And it's just like you're unaware of how much you you're getting going through like life with the parking brake on, with all
Yep.
these different things, and we're the ones maintaining that parking brake. That's a weird thing, and like
Yep.
that sense of imposter syndrome. I tell people, just get rid of that. You know you're good enough. It came up with Natasha K the other day because she was
Mhm.
working on the Harris campaign, and she's just like, "Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this?" And she's
Mhm.
like, just defaulting to that assumption that the people in power know better. They don't. They don't. And it's like, use your senses. And that's the white supremacy argument makes you deny reality in favor of the white supremacy narrative. I know you're a science fiction fan. I've been
Yes.
reading, I've been reading Carl Sagan to my kids, The
Okay.
Demon Haunted World.
Oh
I told
wow.
that to Marlon yesterday. He's like, "Oh, your poor kids," but it's actually so empowering and he's a good writer. He's talking about all these illusions and lies and mysticism from history. And
Yep.
the more we just embrace, because we're in this era of science denial, thanks to assholes like Joe Rogan, and now
Yep.
people aren't getting their kids vaccinated. And so
Yep.
that's what we have to return to, our ability to just trust our own senses, our own hearts, our own thoughts. You'd think that'd be an easier argument to spread.
The interesting thing though, when you think about people like Joe Rogan and stuff, they whoa, these the oligarchs are trying to control us and they're giving us these vaccines, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding. So I am, my parents from West Africa. I have seen what vaccines do and how many
Oh,
lives. Okay.
yeah.
So there's no getting this person here to believe that, there's a chip in vaccines that's going to control all of us. And so, okay, that you don't want to vaccinate your child. Okay. First of all, I don't think it's fair for the child, but hey, you're
Huh.
their parent, get to make that decision. But why do you go out and badmouth vaccines? Why could you go out and create false narratives about vaccines? That's where I take issue with this. Is that it can be your own decision, but you don't need to go out there and spread lies because
Y-
those lies are killing kids.
Yes, they're torturing them.
Yeah.
And I wanna say, I think Joe Rogan is a product of the oligarchs, and I mean, his ridiculous and we always say this, there is so much money for hate speech, and
Yeah.
every accusation is a confession. They always accuse decent, like, safety net programs of being full of fraud. That's because the right uses everything that they promote, the military budget, fraud. They use it to promote, Charlie Kirk so he can go around and spread hate speech.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just so hard. Yeah, getting on about the I don't think parents should have a right to torture their children, with by not giving them vaccines. And I think,
I don't think
it's
they
like, and there's this thing in the United States too. When I grew up in a rural community, all these farmers, they think of their children as their property. I saw a lot of kids get, fed into like hay balers and stuff and have these terrible accidents because you
mhm,
can't make any money on a farm. And just we just have this tolerance for, like, they call it parental choice, but it's really the parental right to abuse their kids because these
yeah.
kids are dying and they're being tortured from these diseases and it's spreading. So yeah, that's a big issue. We could talk
But
about that one all day.
it's absolutely horrendous. But, I was reading, a paper the other day about how the right basically is taken over, or basically how Donald Trump won. And they talked about these people like Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, all these right wingers that basically started these podcasts and started influencing Americans in shaping opinion. And
Yeah,
so a lot of the reason that Trump is in the White House for a second time around is because of these right wing influences and the
yeah.
power that they have. And the thing is, on the other end, you have like the liberal influences. But honestly,
No, there aren't any. Yeah.
Walter, some of these people I'm not even listening to anymore. I'm just not listening to what they're saying anymore because, once in a while you'll agree with them, or and then they'll just stab you in the back with some type
Yeah.
of, like, where the hell did that come from? Some of the stuff that Ezra Klein puts out there, I'm like, how, like, what's going on?
That's yes.
So,
That's
so yeah,
exactly.
I think, on our end, we have these Substack lives, but we need to have more people talking, more conversations, more common sense conversations, because there's no way that cruelty and violence is the way that we were meant to live in this world. I will never believe that.
Yes. And what you said is so, so important. It's one of my biggest messages right now, particularly, is that the hateful right spends all this money on their influencers and the Democrats do nothing. The
Mm,
Democrats do not have any kind of response for that. The right is constantly hate programming everybody. When I drive around in my car, 7 of 10 radio stations are just right wing hate, and it's like, how is that getting sponsored or supported? There's limitless funds to be a right wing hate podcaster. There's zero funds for Zuri or me. And this is why I've been talking to all these. When I talk to progressive candidates for office, I'm getting some big ones. They're running for Congress and they're running for governor, but they're not getting a fair shake because the entire media system is
yeah,
entirely right wing hate propaganda. Like you said, the stuff that they're told us, they tell us it's liberal. It's not liberal. It's like,
yeah,
I'm the progressive, you're a progressive. We have zero representation. So
uh-huh,
those of us here, please, please, please go and get more people. The bigger I can get, the more I can bring in progressive candidates, have a platform for progressive candidates,
yeah,
when and if they win their primaries, the things we talk about then are debated on the stage against their Republican candidates. We can
uh,
shift things. Whether they win or lose is irrelevant. We just need to have these conversations. And the bigger we get, the more people make the deliberate choice. Like you said, if everybody's just passive, because that cultural indoctrination mechanism is so strong where people idolize the rich, they just
uh,
assume every rich person owned it, earned it, and they never even think that they might have stole it or oppressed it, or they might be hurting people. That doesn't even cross their minds. We have to dismantle that, start getting rational voices on a larger stage so
uh,
that, our voices can be heard and we can do it. But we have to awaken people. That's where it comes in, where me screaming at people, wake up. It's like we have to start talking. It's like there's a humanitarian crisis in the United States right now. Your taxpayer dollars are funding concentration camps. We don't
uh,
have any assurances that little kids aren't being raped and tortured and murdered in these camps. We need to
uh-huh.
talk about this. The whole world needs to be talking about this right now. So help us be louder.
Exactly. And the thing is, we are trying to operate within their systems.
Yeah.
We're within these oligarch systems that are meant to suppress our voices.
Yes.
And, from time to time, I sort of look at some of the discourse that comes out of some of the AI stuff like Grok, like that. And I see that Grok is also being fed some of the lies.
Yes.
And I often just challenge it and say, do you really believe what you've just said? You know, so I spend a lot of time actually just questioning some of the responses I get from some of the AI mechanisms because I'm saying,
Yeah.
really super intelligent, then it should begin to question some of the narratives that are being programmed into it.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
the yeah, well, that's the problem with these tech guys because they're trying to use science, but science is gonna ultimately come to reason. I mean, so it's like you can't program this thing that actually is fairly and then have it spew a white supremacy narrative because
exactly.
that white
I
supremacy
I
narrative
would
is against.
encourage anybody that's using these AI tools, just go in and ask a question, and then just challenge it. Just keep on challenge it and saying, "Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is the reality." And when you challenge it, I am expecting that the AI, they keep trace of everything that you put in.
Yeah.
So at one point, if they're really going to be super intelligent, they're going to have to start questioning some of the stuff that was programmed into them at the start. So that's one of my fun projects that I do from time to time. Is just going in and basically just saying, you know what? I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to put one of my articles in and just educate you. I'm going to machine train you. You know, I'm just going to
Yeah.
train you because I'm afraid as a black woman that my perspective is never going to be in an AI that's being created by a white guy in
Yeah.
Valley or Austin, whatever, wherever have you. So that's why I think it's, you know, upon me to sort of go in and start giving them my perspective, like now,
Oh.
before late.
Well, yeah, and
All this,
I mean, your perspective will never be erased. It's so important and so needed. We need your compassion and your care, and it's just
I
I'll elevate you as much as I can.
thank you. But I do need AI to also be listening to that perspective because they're training these things as we speak. So we need to be putting our opinions into those mechanisms. I know people talk about, well, it's going to steal my IP. It's going to steal this. It's going to steal that. My IP will always be my IP, but I just want to make sure that I am putting those different opinions into those systems as we speak.
Oh, and another thing, and that's part of the reason too, because they trains my AI is trained on my content too, which is
Yeah,
why I constantly am talking and talking and talking, and it's like that's got to help. But I always say too, one of the things we have this major advantage because there's no right wing guy who can create as much as I can because they have to double and triple check everything they say so that their evil doesn't slip out. And I
yeah,
just turn off my conscious mind and speak from the heart. I can
exactly.
talk 24 hours straight and not I'll write articles and not have no memory of writing those articles the next day. I'll read them again. I'm like, gee, that was pretty good. But it's yeah, but it's just coming right from the heart, you know. I just and that's you just turn off. It's like this is my integrity, this is my compassion, this is my love
Yeah,
for my fellow human beings coming out. So
yeah.
yeah, like they can't create that. They can't match this.
I can totally relate. I can totally relate. And sometimes I do ask myself, I said, how did that come? How did I think of that? My husband sort of says, because I sort of like, we're like, okay, he's like, we're sort of getting ready for bed. And I'm like, oh, I just need to just go upstairs and write an article. He's like, where did that come from? Like, he's like, what happened? And I said, these words need to come out of my body and
Yes.
they need to be put on paper now. And he just sort of says, okay.
Yep. Oh, I do the voice notes, I do that, but yeah, brrr, it's 10 minutes. I read through them and I read them and it's like, shit, that's pretty good. Where'd that come from? So that's great. I see we're kind of closing in on time. I don't know how much if you got I could talk to you all day always. I'm not kidding. I like to
But
kidnap you. I kidnap you and keep you with me all day.
oh, that's so sweet. I could talk to you all day. I am sort of rushing off to do some type of little write-in gig right now.
Oh,
So
good. Well, I hope people support you, but yeah, go ahead and go support Zuri, everybody. Go ahead and sell
you know what?
yourself for a second.
Oh, Walter, everybody, I'm asking them to support you.
Oh, well, I'll see. That's so lovely. Oh, yeah. I had all these things I thought I was going to ask you. I'm going to have to write them down because I know there's a lot more to say, but we have to do this more often. Yeah, I can meet up. We'll just figure it out. Let's
Thanks,
have to be
Eric.
more often.
Yeah, we need to talk more often. We really do. I promise I'm going to make a big, big effort to get some pain work so I can be a lot more on. Uh,
Well, it's up to these lovely people. Maybe there's enough here to support you right today if they all pitch in. So hopefully they do. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being
Thank
here. Love you, Suri. Thank you so much for your
Love you so
compassion and
much.
your
Walter. Thank
decency.
you so much. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for your comments. Really, really touches my heart. Thank you.
Thanks. Next time we'll see you.
Yeah. Bye.